Welcome back to Watching the Wild. We have I think we had a spoiler alert. We're going to have some spirited debate. I don't know about debate, but I think we're probably
pretty one-sided on
Well,
it.
maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. So there's some legislation that we're going to get into today that has to do with hunting, impacts hunting and fishing, public land access, different things like that. Which, anytime you get into politics and religion, it's unfortunate, but people, it's almost like, I don't know about hate is the word, but you get anger, right? And you get division. And if there's anything I want to touch on today, it's we're going to get into a lot of polarizing topics. It's the fact that, as a body of believers, we're called to be united, right? And unfortunately, sometimes in certain topics, we just got to agree to disagree. So, that's kind of my opinion on this. There's, we got Christian believers who happen to be from Oregon and the other states that we're going to be talking about that are, that would disagree with us on these topics. We're still brothers in Christ, and we gotta abide by that. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that bit? I just because this, anyways. I think I already covered.
It's not a sin to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Or to have a different one than somebody else.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Still be friends.
Yeah.
We're probably not the best example of that because
There's
not a
varying
lot of
opinions
disagreement in the room generally, but we'll find something.
Yeah.
That's the point of today.
Basically. And we were talking about a little bit of this, Kurt talks about this a lot, and we were going about this on Sunday on having the Bible in the one hand and current events in the other. And I don't know about you guys, but I get, and I'm not a good example here. I'm one of those people that I just get to the point where it comes to current events and politics, and it's just like, it's so hard to know who can you believe, who can you trust, what's a good source. So I'd like to talk about that. I think we all did a fair bit of research on our, on these different bits of legislation or proposed legislation actually that we want to talk about. So get your guys' ideas on where do you go to stay informed, maybe whether it's these specific topics or really anything. And then we also talked about this. Oftentimes it's when you look at the base of this stuff, who benefits from this, or what's the underlying theme? Matt, you kind of talked about that with your experience in the conservation world. A lot of times it can be smoke and mirrors, over here, but this is what we're really caring about, or what it's all about. So how to peel that back and really understand what it all means, because it gets confusing. But anyhow, those are just some thoughts I had. But before we jump in, anybody feel like opening us up in prayer? All right. Yeah. Thanks, Ray.
Lord, we're just really glad to be here yet again, be able to keep this thing going. And we just pray that, throughout this episode and those in the future that, you use us as a mouthpiece if you can, and help us to say some things that'll, reach the right ears and glorify you throughout the process, no matter what it's about, whether it's politics or religion or hunting or whatever it may be. Let us get out there and make a difference if we can. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay, so before we jump into the first act that we talked about, I did a lot of yapping there. Any thoughts on how did you guys go about finding decent sources throughout all this?
I'll let one of you guys go.
I think it's pretty hard to evaluate a lot of the stuff you see, like you said. I did some formal academic research in the past, and it's nice because with that stuff you're a lot of times trying to look at past literature that's been done so you can look up, in different databases and things like that, whether it's affiliated with universities or, publications, journals, stuff like that. So it's fairly easy. Like once you go to a place where that information that's in there is going to be like scholarly articles, like it can be easy to slim it down. There's a lot of topics that you can do that on. This stuff, I think a lot of it, because it's, recent and current and not necessarily scientific for all of it, it's hard to find those types of articles. I just kind of pepper like the search engine with whatever I'm using with keywords and buzzwords and, things like relating to the state or the legislation. And I try to stick wherever I can. I try to stick to like .orgs and or .edus or different things like that aren't just like a website that just anybody could make. It's got to be some kind of nonprofit or affiliated with a university or maybe like a government.gov with different wildlife agencies. Those are great, but there's a lot of other stuff you can see on other websites where one thing I always do a lot of times, even before I read anything, is I'll like scroll down and see if I can find if they cited any sources. And then sometimes you can just cut out the middleman and skip to the sources that they found. Some of it, yeah, you just don't know because it's, people saying things that were from a video or an interview or something that it's like, it might be hard to track that actual quote down. But I don't know. I just kind of peruse, and if I find something that's from one of those reputable sources, or if I find something from a source that I'm not sure about, I'll then like look at like search for those government pages or call it, EDUs or whatever to try to like corroborate what I found. And then if I can find it in multiple places, if one of them at least is like, seems like a decent source, like one of those more established organizations, then I'll usually, feel pretty good about going with that. But
yeah, I like one of similar, I think most of the things that I looked up, I think I couldn't find anybody that cited their sources, which is really unfortunate. There was a lot of on some of the numbers that I found. It was not directly related to the industry, so it kind of felt like it was, and it was having nothing to do with this legislation at all. It was more just kind of white papers on egg statistics and different things like that. So, but yeah, when it comes to you would think when it comes to, especially because a lot of what we're going to talk about is tax dollars, you would think there would be easier access to that type of information. Maybe it was me just not finding it, but yeah, it's, and then even when you get into that level, it's what fiscal year are we talking about? Like a lot of this stuff, it seemed like I could find stuff from 2022 or 24 or whatever. So it was chasing your tail. You can't just add it all up and say, okay, yeah, they're all equal.
You used to be able to look at the opposing sides and read both and find the commonalities in the two to find what I felt was somewhere near close to truth. Now things are so sensationalized and many times blown out of proportion and shock and awe and so on that it's really hard. You guys did probably way more research than I did, but there's so much to that. It's very difficult to try to find what's really going on, and the bait and switch thing, hey, we want to do this over here, but really what they're wanting is this little piece to get some to build on for the future. And so it's very difficult. And the only thing I'd say about research from the standpoint of from colleges and universities and so on and so forth, that from doing research, you can run statistical analysis. And if you run enough different types of analysis, you can almost get the outcome you want or the correlation, cause and effect that you really want to have come out of it. My thought, especially in the conservation world, is that the vast majority of that isn't. It's really pristine and real. Like, because one of the best things in the world is to have a hypothesis. You think this cause is going to affect this, and find out you were wrong, because that's just as good as being right with your hypothesis. And so I think at least in my experience, the vast majority of those people, those researchers, professors, and so on, in our what we're kind of conservation world, is probably pretty pristine.
The nice part about, in terms of this stuff, kind of following the money, though, is like if you can find it, which anything with public legislation, initiatives, petitions, there's some level of public information out there. It's all out there. It's just a matter of how easy it is to find. Like with the Oregon stuff, I went to the Secretary of State website and everything was on there after a little bit of digging. But if you're following the money, you can't run statistics on money in terms of dollars and cents. Like it was either paid or it wasn't paid. It was paid by this guy or paid by that guy. So, I mean, you can have shell companies and, aliases and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole nother thing. But in terms of like, if somebody paid for something, and it's public, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
All right. Well, I think the first one is, and I alluded to it last week, is the Peace Act. So it's
Peace Initiative Act.
Peace Initiative Act. Why can't I find it? You
Peace
guys know
Act
the
is something
acronym?
different.
Peace Initiative Act. So it's IP 28. People for the Elimination of Animal Cruelty Exemptions Act. Peace Act. So to be clear, this is a ballot initiative that it's not on the ballot. It's if they get enough signatures, it's going to be voted on.
What state?
In Oregon. And so they're working on getting enough signatures to get it on the ballot. And I'll summarize this, and you guys feel free to jump in. But it's essentially any activity that you would do that harms or kills an animal would be considered animal cruelty and against the law. So that would include hunting, fishing, both private and commercial, as well as ranching or anything where you're raising an animal with the understanding that you're going to kill it or receive produce from it, like milk. I think eggs would be considered animal cruelty. So it's on its and I think it's hard to fathom in some ways the I guess the concept being from a largely agricultural world that we living in here in North Dakota, and being close to the producers, the farmers and ranchers, and it would be tough to understand the people that really understand that way of life, and the salt of the earth kind of people that work their tails off, just to be told one day what you do is illegal. You can't produce this. In a lot of these family farms, this is generational stuff, right? And I'm just speaking that from the eyes of a North Dakota, and I can't speak to Oregon, but I got to believe that's, if you get to a lot of the locations in Oregon, the family farming is a big deal, right? So it in some ways it breaks your heart that this is even a concept, but I don't know.
It's probably coming from Western Oregon, because it was only a few years ago that Eastern Oregon wanted to succeed and become part of Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean,
or make their own state.
I've been to a pretty decent number of places for my age, and one thing I will say that I think a lot of people forget about, especially people in the West, is that not the coast per se, but the West, is that pretty much anywhere you go, once you get outside of the population centers, you get into those agricultural communities. Like, we lived in upstate New York for a number of years, where most people, even here outside of New York, anywhere you go, they think, oh, it's just one big city.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have one of the largest, I think, national or state forests in the country, in the Adirondacks.
Largest.
You have, some incredible views in landscape, and lots of like kind of small town agricultural, dairy farms and small like crop operations and things like that all over the place. And so, anywhere you go, that's going to be the case. And I think that we forget sometimes, being, out here kind of in a place that people anticipate to be like rural and agricultural heavy, that it's that way everywhere. I mean, these people, no matter where you go, you're going to find, your kind, in that sense of like the people that are going to be supported by those generational practices. And to add on to that, not only is it, hunting, fishing, trapping, ranching, like this is also going into artificial breeding techniques. I mean, the ones that come to mind for me are generally related to cattle. They did mention that you're still allowed to pull calves because you're helping them. You're still allowed to castrate, spay, and neuter. But anything beyond that, and it's not just animal cruelty, it's considered like sexual assault of animals.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it just seems kind of outrageous to me, but that's kind of what they're going after is these existing statutes that are considered exemptions to animal cruelty. They want to get rid of pretty much all of those.
Did you ever figure out if you could poison mice and stuff?
No, you can't. There's no pest controls not allowed.
I was
that's another thing.
I was reading something about this, and they went down this road of the first non-lethal rodent trap was invented in like 1898 or something like this. So it's not a new technology, and like like so you're gonna take this probably invasive rat and you're going to release it where?
Outside your door so I can come back in?
Yeah.
Well, and like where do you draw the line? Like if I have a spider running around in my house and I, swat it with a newspaper.
Invertebrates is not part of this apparently.
Okay, so invertebrates. So all of a sudden you have a spine and, that's all it takes.
Yeah, right.
To be. But I mean, it's concerning because they're going all the way, but where does it stop in other places? Like with Colorado, they're trying to push through this fur ban right now, and we don't have to, divert to that. But like they're trying to get rid of all fur trade, bartering, selling, anything like that, in an effort to, save the animal populations and biodiversity, which isn't really scientifically, impacting the way that they think it is. But in Colorado, you can only use live traps already. So like, there's not endangered species or animals that are unintentionally trapped generally being killed because they're not in leg hold traps. They're not in traps that are killing them automatically. So, I mean, it's just going to keep snowballing.
Yeah. Which that's you hit it. That's the concern about this is one, I think the whole reason why we're doing this is to get the word out, right? This is important, and you might call these battleground states, and why we've alluded to this too, why it's so important to take somebody hunting, take somebody fishing. That's not new, and we've talked about that. Sure, it sucks when you go on that public ground and you got some guy that may or may not know what he's doing and wrecking your hunt for you, but the reality is he's a voter too, he or she, right? And
it's public ground.
Yeah, it's public ground, and they're all there to use it and consume it however whenever we want to, right? So
I think one of the most important things, because I know this from when I first got out here, North Dakotans don't believe that they'll ever deal with some of the issues that these other states do, whether it be from a natural resources standpoint, hunting, fishing, because we have it really good. We've said it. Don't come here, but it is really good.
It's terrible. Don't listen to him. It is god awful here.
But it can happen. And so I think it's important that we talk about this stuff here, even though it's not affecting North Dakota right now. This is not in North Dakota right now. I think a lot of the residents of North Dakota don't think it can happen here, but it can.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more educated you are, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? We're talking, hunting, fishing, ranching, and so on with this particular situation, or animals in general. But it can happen here. And so, there were some surveys done about 11 or 12 years ago. And, kind of the general public was asked about, what's it like in North Dakota? Is there an issue for habitat? People were like, if I want to shoot a pheasant, I go shoot a pheasant. If I want to go kill a deer, I go kill a deer. If I want to shoot a turkey, I go kill a turkey. We don't have an issue. We probably have more of an issue than anybody wants to realize. And so I think it's important. And I'll probably say that again before we're done.
Well, and there's plenty of problems within North Dakota in terms of the hunting and fishing world, but it's proof. The problems themselves are proof of how good we have it, and the fact that people aren't worried about the bigger picture because of the fact that we're focused on chronic wasting disease and these different things. Like if our hunting and fishing opportunities were in jeopardy, like we wouldn't be able to focus on those things because those are very narrow, things we can zone in on. But at the same time, if you look around online, at least where I've seen like this Oregon thing, a lot of people even on the left of center kind of side of things think this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
they think it's not, whether they agree with animal hunting, whatever. A lot of people, they understand the economic hazards of doing something like this, and so it's easy to look at it and be like, yeah, chances are realistically this probably, even if it makes the ballot, it's probably not going to even come close to getting voted through. But I still think it's worth discussing because it's probably not the last time that we're going to see something like this.
They got 100,000 signatures, right? They only need 17,000. Well, allegedly have 100,000 signatures.
If you look at the requirements, they need like 117,000 by July 2nd.
Because it goes on the ballot in November.
Yes, it specifically says valid signatures. And with all this data stuff, I mean, the caveat to that is like there very easily could be a significant portion of the signatures that are getting blasted in from bots or some kind of AI or people from outside of the state or the country that wouldn't technically be valid signatures. I don't know what that percentage would be. I would say it's more than 0. It's probably not 50. But I mean, like if you look at the funding sources from the Secretary of State, one of the things that I noticed and a bunch of other people online noticed is there's a name in there, Leonid Posnov, and that's a very Russian name, and the address that's in the spreadsheet on the Secretary of State website is addressed to St. Petersburg, Russia, and he's like one of the top. I shouldn't say that, I don't know, but one of the top donors in terms of amount to this organization that's putting this forward, which is it's a nonprofit called End Animal Cruelty. But it's weird because like if you look up that address in St. Petersburg, it pulls up. Like on like the street view, it's like this abandoned apartment building. Like the windows are broken out and boarded up, and like it's clear like probably no functioning person is living there. So I mean, how much of that do you have? Yeah, like that money's obviously not coming from where they're saying it's coming from. Where are those names on the petition saying that they're coming from? Where they're coming from? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've all heard this stuff about foreign countries, spitting stuff into these kind of controversial, like extremist opinions to try to just like sow more division and get people to fight. And I think my guess is that name, that person from Russia is a perfect example of that. Yeah, I agree. It's, man, where do you start on this? The one thing that, and when I was doing the research on this, that I was calling out, I don't know how much of this I want to read. So there's a website called the snip28.org. And there are some well-presented arguments. I can't argue with that. But there's this, would IP28 affect ODF and its conservation efforts? So ODF is their office of, it's like their game Oregon
and Fish.
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife. Thank you, sir. And so they go through and they're talking about the budget of, and they do acknowledge the fact that we've touched on, and I have a bunch of numbers on this that I would like to refute this, but the fact that $185 million from hunter angler licenses and tag sales, which is 39% of the revenue, that would be interesting. And I tried to get this, and I do actually have the numbers on. We talked about the Dingell-Johnson Act and the Pittman-Roberts Act. It's when I did it would be close to it was at least half that. I think it was close to $100 million that they got just from those two. So anyways, it goes on to talk more numbers, and then they talk about specific conservation efforts is really only 2% of what they do, and then anyways it gets down to this last bit, and this for me calls out the heart of this legislation. Regardless of any organization involvement with killing animals should not be responsible for, so they're talking about in relation to this ODF, this, regardless, any organization involved with killing animals should not be responsible for protecting animals. We would consider it unjustified if we decided to kill human animals in the name of environmental protection, and it is just as unjustified to kill non-human animals in the name of conservation. So, to me, the way I read that, it's an animal life is just as important as a human life, right? And that just, and I would hope there's some folks that are faith based here, but it's open your Bible. You don't have to get too far when it in Genesis when God gave us dominion over all the animals, right? Be fruitful and multiply. That's right there in Genesis, right? So, we were created in God's image, right? We weren't created. God didn't create a cow in His image. He didn't create a crab in His image, right? So I hope if you're going to get anything out of that, at least, and don't get. I don't think any of us are all about going around wanton waste, needlessly killing animals. Every one of us, it's a big deal to consume and use every bit of an animal that we can, because they are a resource and they've built who we are in a large degree. But the reality is, it's still an animal. It's it's not as important as my son or anything
Thank
else.
goodness, man. I was really worried there for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Some days.
you
Some
just
days.
Oh, there's some. Believe me.
I mean, kind of like you said, we're not proponents of any form of animal cruelty. Like, one of the things that a lot of anti-hunters will talk about is that hunting is this violent, cruel way to deal with animals. And granted, it's not perfect. It's not pretty every time. But the way that an animal expires through hunting, through at least a decent shot, not even a perfect shot, but a decent shot, 9 times out of 10 is going to be faster and more humane than the way that they will die naturally, whether that's by predator or by, starvation, or if you consider vehicle accidents, like take the back legs off and the thing walks for 2 months. Like, so I'm sorry, but if you want to say that it's animal cruelty to shoot an animal with a rifle and the animal drops in its tracks and never moves an inch, like, that's literally the most humane way that an animal can expire, while being in nature. Like it, and honestly, I know that there's issues with some agricultural practices in terms of like the way that animals are treated in places, and I don't know details on that, but I not everybody's perfect. Some people, probably doing things they shouldn't be. But even then, when people are butchering animals and slaughtering animals for meat and stuff like that, putting the actual life itself of the animal aside, like, those practices are extremely similar. It's very quick. There's usually not anything that would be considered, struggling or suffering. So, it's not like these animals are being, across the board mistreated for all these different practices.
Yeah, if you've ever worked closely, and that would be the one thing I would say to anyone, and maybe we should do this too to try to see the other side. But I think all of us have been close to a ranching family to get an idea of what that's their livelihood. They're not going to go out and beat the heck out of their livelihood, right? That they spend money, time, energy, and resources to make sure that they live and prosper, right? Make it through a winter, so it's just hard to knowing, like I said, this is getting a little repetitive on my side, but knowing these people and many ranching families, the concept that they would be criminalized for breeding animals, have a successful breeding program, a successful livestock program is really, you shake your head at it.
Well, they're taking the money that they receive from, successful business, and most or all or sometimes even more than the money that they profit is going right back into taking care of those animals.
Yeah.
And the community.
That too. And the thing is too, is like, they're not banning eating meat.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 4.25 million people in Oregon. The vast majority of those people, whether you pass it or not, are still going to eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just taking that demand and moving it outside state lines.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about state economy, like they're talking about opening up this humane trust fund, you're talking about feeding probably 4 million or more people in terms of basically all of the protein that they eat is going outside of the state. I mean, I can't even imagine what number that would be like on a yearly basis. And I'm sorry, but unless you have like Elon Musk back up this humane trust fund,
it ain't doing
they're
it.
not going to be able to, reconcile that hit that the economy is going to take.
Do you want to kind of give a little more information about what that is? What this humane trust is?
I mean, I don't honestly. It's to me like we're just reading on their website. It was a little bit nondescript, but the idea is that they want to establish a fund within this, initiative to kind of reconcile the economic hardship that would be created by passing this bill. So not only are they recognizing the fact that this would be creating economic hardship, they're also establishing something to try to solve that problem. But at least from what I can find, there was no mention of actually filling
Funding
that.
Yeah.
There was very little mention of where that money's coming from, what that money's going to specifically be used for, other than saying conservation and helping people with food. And I mean, not to mention, this legislation would be breaking treaties with the 9 federally recognized tribes in Oregon because it would be imposing on them. And so you're also damaging those populations. And on their website, they're saying like this will affect the tribes too, basically. Like when we're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just not, you don't have the chops for that.
Correct.
The Humane Transition Fund.
That's what it is.
To be established in the state treasury, separate and distinct from the general fund.
So it feels like a massive welfare program.
I think it's just.
Well,
I think
like,
it's just nice words to
Where's
say
the
we've
money
got a
going to
plan.
come from?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll keep this short. And granted, when I did my research, this is from the national, and this impacts fishing too, right?
Right.
They talk a lot about fisheries and fish breeding programs that would be illegal out of this. So Oregon's commercial fishing industry hit a new economic high in 2025, generating $517 million in income and supporting 10,321 jobs, a notable jump from previous. And then they export $1.1 billion offshore. So that's just raw numbers on their on the fishing industry, and then on the animal agriculture industry, $4.4 billion in economic output, 325 jobs, 914 million in earnings, 252 million in income taxes paid to state, local, and federal levels, 151 million in the form of property taxes. Right? That's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money and a lot of people. And that's directly related to that. You look at, if you go to the small towns and I got to believe this is the same thing there. In these small towns, a small town in North Dakota, they survive off of the pheasant opener, the deer opener, right? So you have the outfitters, you have all these things that, your bait shops, your sporting goods shops, you're like, it's just it just blows your mind when you think about how many people are going to be like, are you kidding me? Now I don't have a business. I can't function anymore.
Yeah, outside of the food, I mean, I think it was the Oregon Hunters Association was the website I looked at. They've got a bunch of stuff, opposing this initiative. And one of the things that they mentioned was they estimated, I don't remember what the source was, but they got a number that was somewhere a little bit over 1 million people. And that's in the state of Oregon. And that's, anglers, hunters, but not only recreationists, but also, pest control workers and ranchers and people that are fishing for their livelihood and, all those other people you're talking about. That's almost 25% of the population of the state.
Yeah.
So
all of a sudden becomes unemployed.
And that doesn't even include what, the food issue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about money. The whole thing's just stupid. I'm sorry.
It is.
It's ridiculous, and I don't even know. I mean, God made this perfect natural world, and he gave us the responsibility to take care of it. And so when you actually do have game and fish and researchers, no telling how many, that focus on the natural world, whether it's timber, whether it's animals, whether it's fish, whatever it may be, probably an untold number of small nonprofits that are actually trying to improve all that and have made huge strides. I mean, just look at salmon, right? The impacts on salmon that they've been able to have. Now, it's not back to historical levels, but obviously some sturgeon. I mean, huge impacts there as well. And so there's a whole host of different species that you could talk about. Just something as idiotic as this right here takes all that away. Because now what are you going to do?
Yeah. Who's going to fund that research?
And who's going to deal with the problem?
Yeah.
The Humane Transition Fund.
Yeah.
The Russian guy.
Yes, and the
He's
Russian.
going to sweep in and fund everything, guys.
Well, you know,
That's
another
what you
person-
They're
listen.
going to vaporize the deer when they get out of control.
Oh no!
population
I read
wise.
something. I don't mean to.
That's not killing if you vaporize it.
That's a whole nother thing. Is population
they talked
control.
about this. They talked about, well, so what about if we sterilized animals? So you
Oh
could.
my
you could,
God.
No, I'm not kidding you. This is
No,
on the
I already
website.
know. This has been around for years.
Yeah, that you could give people licenses to go sterilize a wild animal.
That must be the reason why they specifically mentioned that you can still do castration and spaying and neutering,
Yeah. So
leaving that door open.
yeah, that I was just like, are you what?
It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And it, you know, like I said earlier, I would love to sit here and agree with most of the people online and be like, whatever, this doesn't have a snowball's chance in heck.
Yeah.
You know, like I would love to say that, and it's probably true. But I think this is one of those things, like, you know, you kind of talk about it and engage the community to nip it in the bud. So that way, if it does come up again, it's like, we don't get to the point of 100,000 signatures on a petition.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want it to get that far. You know, my hope would be that, you know, 99 out of 100 people, anywhere you go, somebody comes up to you in a Walmart parking lot and says, you want to sign this, and that you ask them what it's about. They explain this, and they say criminalize hunting, and you just laugh and walk away. Like, you don't even listen to the rest of their spiel. And I understand that may not be the most charitable response, but, you know, Jesus was not tolerant of everything. Like, we don't need to sit there and pretend that things are okay or reasonable when they're not.
If you live in Oregon and you're listening to us, or you know somebody who lives in Oregon, please tell them, don't be complacent about this.
Right.
Get out there, go to the ballot, whatever. If it makes it there, get the word out.
Contact your legislators, senators, whoever it is.
Do whatever you
got
to do, because I'm sure there'll be, if it gets any legs, there'll be some very large conservation nonprofits that'll weigh in that have huge leverage, but don't rely on that.
Well, I think, unfortunately, like,
be responsible.
That's part of the reason why some of these bigger, you know, whether it be influencers or organizations, like, yeah, they got a budget, they got to put their time and money into certain things. I think that a lot of places just aren't really seeing this as a priority because they don't think it has a chance. They think it's just ridiculous and silly. You know, there's a lot of other stuff going on that, like the Boundary Waters, for example, that, you know, they're putting a lot of time and effort into because they see it as something that's actually possible, you know. So, you know, as much as that might be the right decision for them, it's kind of like, let's address this now.
What's hilarious is 30 plus years ago, we were doing some research for a university on the West Coast for sterilization of deer. And so we were actually doing it in a captive breeding program. It didn't work.
What was the purpose? I mean, like, why?
Same
why?
idea. It's same idea of basically controlling a deer population
without killing
through
anything.
sterilization without killing the animal. So we laughed, but the university probably made pretty good money on it using, our
Donated
facility
funds,
and our staff and so on doing the work. But it didn't work. It was like, I don't want to say like 30% effective. And that was like doing it with a hand syringe. That's not shooting them with a dart gun or something like that. And then we used to joke a lot about it. Is like, okay, you're going to fly around the helicopter and you're going to have this dart gun that not only injects the animal, but also puts a permanent freeze brand on them or something, from up in a helicopter or something. So, don't do that one. It's already been done.
You don't want to hit it again. Yeah.
Because of the reproductive capacity of certain species.
Well, and then just the concept of that, like, we've out at the farm, I don't know if you remember, we've seen some of those where whether they're given penicillin or whatever it is, but those, you have a significant syringe and a significant sized needle that's just going to drop out and hang on the ground somewhere too, right? Like,
for cats.
Yeah, for cattle, so I would assume that's something similar.
Oh, they're using the guns with the pellets in them.
Yeah,
for antibiotics.
Yeah,
I don't know. We just see this.
Geez,
this thing's hanging out on the ground. You pick it up and
these are the ones we use weren't that way. What you're talking about is probably a dart without a barb on it. They're designed to fall out.
Yeah,
that's what's used with most wildlife. So they actually will stay in for a minute and then fall out. So if it doesn't work, then the animal doesn't.
That would probably be considered animal cruelty, though.
It would be. It would have to be.
Pop them with some tranks. I mean, so then you talk about sterilizing, and what are you going to do? You're going to walk up and just like, sweet talk them to lay down, start cutting? Like,
you got to soothe them into it. They have to agree.
Yeah, but castration.
That's
okay.
But how do you get to the point where you can castrate the thing?
Yeah.
That's like you're going to tackle there's Roosevelt elk out there. What are you going to do? You're going to run up and grab the thing by the antlers and just wrestle him down?
No, is the answer.
No, yeah.
You are not going to.
You have to commit some, quote, cruelty in order to get that done.
True. But I want to be the guy with the bander, not the guy grabbing its head.
Absolutely. I would like to be the guy taking photos.
Try to run that thing through a chute, right? Can you imagine that?
Oh my gosh.
It's not possible.
Not gonna happen.
Youngest of the group.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion? Because you'll be battling this stuff more in the future.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. I think one number that I found was just in the fishing, in the restaurants, and the agriculture industry, those all make up 13% of Oregon's total economy. So for anything to say, any act or whatever to say that that's just all going to go down the drain essentially is absurd. Like, obviously 13% doesn't, out of 100 doesn't sound like a great number, but that is a large hit on a state's, total economy for anything. And then another thing is their exports, because you're not exporting any sort of animal product anymore. So what's their top export going to be now? Or I guess their top export probably is timber, if I had to guess.
I don't know. I would guess a good chance.
I would guess it's timber.
Fish.
Yeah,
or fish.
That's no longer a thing.
The thing about that it doesn't really matter, but that I would be curious about though is like the state line ends at the coast or within a buffer zone. So if I go 10 miles out and drop my nets and catch a bunch of fish and they're dead when they come back to shore, like, am I good?
I don't think. Well, because
I could still sell the meat.
Or are you just going to go to a different port?
Are you allowed?
Are
you allowed to sell meat in the state?
Yeah, they're not banning sale or.
But
anything
it can't
like
be
that.
from. It can't be from.
It can't. The animal can't have been butchered or slaughtered or killed or whatever you want to call it within or trapped within the state.
Yeah, the website kind of calls that out, and they specifically, and I don't want to get in this conspiracy of this, but they talk about it's a big, if you're a farmer, you might be a farmer only, you might be a proponent of this because they talk a lot about, we have plenty of food with soy, nuts, berries, all the things, and it was just like
rabbit food.
oh my goodness.
It's
yeah.
Well, it's funny to me because it's like it's like this whole thing. Like, obviously, you could tell that there's probably an idea somewhere where it's like we don't want people eating meat.
Yeah.
But it seems almost like maybe they were in like a focus group and they're like, well, we don't want them to kill animals or hunt or butcher, but like we got to draw the line at eating meat. That's just too much to ask for.
Yeah.
It's just like, you think that all this was reasonable up until that point?
Yeah.
Like, no,
they put
it was
Voodoo
way back.
Donuts out of business, wouldn't they?
I think they would make their business
Oh.
way better.
What are Voodoo Donuts?
Oh,
They don't
it's
use meat.
It's a donut.
Unless it's like a bacon donut.
I'd assume.
bacon. There's
Eggs?
the one with bacon on
Well,
it.
now they can put
Eggs, butter.
vegan bacon.
Can't do any of that.
So normally podcasts have whoops,
9 o'clock.
normally podcasts have some dude named like Jimmy in the background that they go, "Hey Jimmy, can you look this up?"
You're our
like
Jimmy.
you see- no, I just looked it up because you're asking about top exports.
Oh yeah.
So computer and electronic products is number 1. Transportation equipment's number 2. Machinery, not electrical. Industrial equipment is number 3. Agricultural chemicals is number 4.
How ironic.
Agriculture and food products, seafood is one of them, and wood products are the top.
So, I mean, it's a big one. It's not
Yeah.
the biggest, but it's a big one.
Yeah,
Well,
you
three
would,
of them that you named in there would no longer exist if this was.
Well, I mean, you still have crop farming. So, like, your
Yeah.
agricultural chemicals, I would say the majority of that's going to be related to, like, plants.
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
But
that funny that agricultural chemicals
So
are
what?
higher
pesticides?
than
Yeah.
wood products?
Or fertilizers. Or really
I'd be
anything.
interested if they could, like, have the cops pull up on a farmer that's, like, plowing a field and be like, hey, there's a dead mouse out here. You hit it with your disc, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they'd
Yeah,
send you
because
to
if
jail,
it was
but-
a worm, you'd be okay because it's not a vertebrate, right?
Right. But if it's a mouse,
You are
there you
toast.
go.
And that's.
I mean, everybody's heard those blurbs about the amount of like small animals and things that get killed by. I'm not saying I have any problem with it, but by regular farming practices.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That's
Well-
why coyotes come out when you start haying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at like agriculture is a boom for wildlife of all kinds. I mean, it creates all
It
kinds
helps
of
it more than
habitat.
hurts it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
Well, that's a discussion for another day, but go ahead.
oh,
Gotta keep it.
Keep going.
all right, keep going.
going.
The one thing, and this is right on their website. They specifically called out 4-H, and I was like, that's ballsy. Pun intended. They right as I go by.
Where's the pun in there?
Well,
Think about it,
I
too.
just got by.
Yeah, I guess I
we'll
see it. But like,
explain after.
IP28.
well, like I
ban.
see the vision, but I don't see how that
Yeah.
joke was good. To be honest.
It does. I was just reading that it does not ban spaying and neutering or castration.
Ballsy.
Ballsy.
Okay,
So,
I understood the joke, but I just didn't see how like.
where is it? now?
Right, and 4-H is still fine as long as you're being nice to the animals.
Correct. It can have nothing to do with breeding or like.
But if
There's
there's
all
no
these
breeding it has to be natural.
Yeah,
Right. You
that would be interesting.
Your
I don't-
sheep can live out there
Yeah.
and breed amongst themselves. You just can't like do anything
Force
about
them.
it.
Yeah.
No artificial insemination.
Definitely no artificial insemination.
Because that's sexual abuse, right?
Yes,
Isn't
correct.
it
Yeah.
actually said that in there?
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Very like.
clearly.
Yeah, it's actually a little uncomfortable reading that one section. It's like, really?
Correct.
They mention.
Yeah.
I think it's the part about pulling calves that they mention. They don't say like offspring or babies or calves, or they actually say child. They use the word child to refer to like the offspring of an animal. That just goes back to the whole human animals versus animals thing. It's
There
like
you go.
they're-
Stupidity.
the diction of their policies that they're trying to push is specifically like encouraging the equality between. I heard about this in a class in college. They call it if you think that animals should or people should have more rights than animals, or any species should have more rights than another species, that's called being speciesist. That's a legitimate thing. Literally a professor did a lecture on it at an environmental ethics class I was in college. It was
And
online.
Is that in North Dakota?
No,
So
that was in
that's-
Montana.
Oh,
I could have.
It was an online class, so I couldn't look around the room and see how ridiculous everybody thought it was.
You could look
I'm
in
sure
their
there
Zoom
was a
cameras.
portion of people there that.
And that's if you think another species deserves more rights than humans, or just
No.
If
Any
one
if
species-
you put all species
On the
as
same playing
species,
field.
including people,
Yep.
Yes.
and you think any one species deserves more rights than another species, which generally the context would be humans more than animals or insects or whatever, it would be speciesist.
Mm-hmm.
Consider me speciesist for
Yeah.
humans.
And mammals in general, we've talked about this too. Anyways, go ahead.
Did we want to get to anything else? Because we talked about this for 50 minutes. Ryer had one.
Yeah, we could. I mean, unless you had another one you want to go into, Dan.
No, that was we could talk about that one all day, but yeah.
A big one right now that's very current as well is an issue with the boundary waters. And as my dad mentioned before we started the show, some of the stuff is a little bit misleading because it's focused around the boundary waters, a lot of these articles and topics, but it's not something that's actually going to be occurring within the boundary waters wilderness area.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain to people
Yes.
where that is if they're not?
The idea of it
Minnesota?
is that the Boundary Waters Wilderness area in northern Minnesota would be impacted by, I should say, the Boundary Waters of northern Minnesota are currently protected under the Wilderness Act because they're a wilderness area, and the adjacent national forest, the Superior National Forest, was given a 20-year moratorium by the Biden administration to prevent any like hard rock mining that was going on there that people wanted to.
Because it would pollute the water and the...
Well, in general, there's
Yeah.
just there's not allowed. So what happened was originally this company, I gotta look it up. I forgot what it's called. Oh, so originally this company, Twin Metals, basically wanted to, I think it was like 2015, they wanted to get a lease on this national forest land to start a copper nickel mine. The Trump administration, or Obama stopped it. He said, I don't want it. The Trump administration, the first time around, said, go ahead. So they're going through all these permitting and they didn't get very far. Then the Biden administration puts the moratorium on it, 20 years, which is something that's fairly common. And then Trump comes back in and their administration opened it up. They're attempting right now, they're going through the process of opening it up again. They want to remove the 20-year moratorium through use of the Congressional Review Act, which not really something that's been done before with the Congressional Review Act. So that's part of the concern is like, it's one of those things where if it happens, it creates a precedent for this Congressional Review Act to be used in the future and could impact all kinds of different, environmental and public land protections that have been established in the past. But anyway, this company, Twin Metals, they just got through, I got to remind myself
They're a
here.
foreign entity too, right? Is that right?
Not technically.
I think they.
Let me refresh
yeah,
my memory.
I read that they're a Chilean.
So
Where
the way
the heck was that?
so Twin Metals is a
I think
subsidiary
you're right.
of a company called Antofagasta, which is Antofagasta PLC, which is a Chilean conglomerate that mostly focuses on mining. They're one of the top exporters and conglomerates in the country of Chile. And their main, I couldn't really find any specific numbers to corroborate this, but the consensus is that their the main importer of their minerals is China. So that's one of the big concerns is like, okay, the government wants to remove this protection on the national forest next to the boundary waters to, under the guise of saying this is going to reduce the U.S.'s, dependence on foreign entities for critical minerals. But this company this Twin Metals is a subsidiary of, has a track record of exporting most of their stuff to Asia, specifically China. Like the U.S. is like on that list, but like pretty low in terms, like it goes like Asia, Europe, and then down to the U.S. And how does it affect the boundary waters? The boundary waters are downstream, or a big portion of them are downstream of this area that would be mining near Ely, Minnesota. So the reason that that's a concern is that you have a lot of different types of mining. Some of them don't really produce much for waste or don't produce any toxic waste or liquid waste. hard rock mining, especially when the deposits of the hard rock, in this case copper and nickel, the metals. I gotta say that again. I can't include that. Oh man. In this case, copper and nickel
He's gonna say it again.
is the critical minerals that the deposits contain, and they're sulfide deposits. There's sulfide and oxide deposits. Sulfides can be much more toxic because when the sulfides get out in the air and the water, they turn into sulfuric acid, or they can create sulfuric acid. That's the stuff that acid rain, volcanoes a lot of times will come down. Like, it's bad stuff for the environment. So being downstream, the headwaters for the boundary waters are in this area. That it's called acid mine drainage. That sulfuric acid and those toxins will eventually, pretty much undoubtedly, make it to the boundary waters. There was a study done, I don't remember who it was by, but they did a study that 92% of copper mines in the U.S. historically have failed to control their wastewater. So it's almost a guarantee that this acid mine drainage will reach the boundary waters. And this is not something that's like, it obviously depends on concentration, but this is not something that's like, oh, it's going to maybe there's be some more algae or whatever. Like this will kill everything if there's enough of it, everything. Like that's why you have these, these ponds in Yellowstone that are related to like the hot spot, the volcanic activity. Other than bacteria, some of it's related to acid. Like there's so much in it that nothing can survive other than bacteria. So, I mean, you're talking about one of the largest, completely most untouched and most beloved areas of the country that harbors, an untold number of species of wildlife that could potentially be severely damaged. And I like mining. I'm a mining guy. I think it's great. But, you have a resource like this, especially when it's probably going to end up going out of the country. You can't risk it, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one was interesting to try to find the proponents of it. On the Peace Act, there was definitely, it was easy to find a yes or a no on this.
Right.
This one was, there was a lot of outdoor recreation groups against it, but I don't know, I couldn't find very much that was like, yeah, let's do this, because it's probably mostly a
it's
massive industry
and government, for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And
so this may not make sense, but devil's advocate.
Yeah.
We just talked about the impact on the economy if Oregon passed their Peace Initiative Act, right? So the negative impact. In this case, we're talking about potentially a positive impact. Let's just
economically, yeah.
Economically, a positive impact. So, like, how do you draw a line? What's the distinction?
Well, from my perspective, the Peace Act, nothing changes if nothing passes. You're not hurting anything, right? In the boundary waters, I think the number that I saw was it would probably support like 10,000 jobs, this mine, or the series of the mining that would occur, which seems a little high to me, but I'm not an expert on that. But the boundary waters supports somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000 jobs for all kinds of, whether it's independent, guides, outfitters, rangers, law enforcement, people that are affiliated with basically keeping that wilderness area and, frankly, the forest, the national forest, in good condition and managed. I think, I don't remember what entity it was, but I think they said like somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 jobs would most likely be lost out of that 17,000.
So a net gain of 6.
Not even. That's the max.
Yeah.
Would be 6. So you're talking about, you're cutting 4,000 jobs to gain 10,000, and also potentially doing severe, essentially eternal damage to the environment, rather than not changing anything as the alternative in reference to Oregon.
So has there been, seeing as how you're the mining guy, has there been improvements in being able to contain the effluent from these mining practices? Because you said 92% historically.
Yeah.
But, okay, put it in perspective. What is that today? Do we know?
I don't know for sure. So my experience with mining is all coal related, which there can be some toxins related to coal mining. It's not generally nearly as damaging. And I'm a little biased. Coal mining is like the gold standard for reclamation in terms of, how the land functions afterwards. Like, it has to literally be, by a series of definitions, as good or better than it was when it was originally ground was broke. That's not really possible with hard rock mining. Yeah. Now, again, I haven't worked in hard rock, so I don't know as much about it. But there are a number of mines where there's still, like, that are decades or, very, very old, that are still, affecting the environment. And it's anecdotal, but I saw, a thing that a guy wrote online earlier today about, he grew up in, I think it was West Virginia, somewhere in Appalachia. And he said, like, when he was a kid, the rivers that ran down, they had mining up above their house, and the rivers that ran down past their house were orange from the chemicals.
Yeah.
And so, granted, that's not modern practice. So to answer your question, I would guarantee that the modern practices for hard rock mining are significantly cleaner, significantly more regulated. The issue that I have with it is not the fact that, how often these problems are going to occur, but the fact that when the problem occurs, assuming it will eventually, it's not something that you can just get rid of, especially in water. Like, it's going to stick around. It's going to be really hard to remove, get into the groundwater. This is a drainage with millions upon millions of gallons of water. And all that stuff is completely, the way I would, like, use an analogy is like when Europeans came over to the U.S., they brought all this crazy stuff with them that was normal to them or whatever, not a big deal. But the U.S., the people in North America, the natives had never seen that because it was completely untouched and they were decimated. So if you were to take the problems that can occur from acid mine drainage, from hard rock mining, and put it into an environment that's already impacted by people, it's probably not that big of a deal because you have infrastructure there to take care of these things, or at least a better starting point. But when you take that kind of potential pollutant, that level of toxin, and put it into a completely untouched environment with no infrastructure whatsoever to deal with cleaning the water or anything like that because it hasn't required it, it's going to be that much harder to establish any kind of bioremediation to fix the problem, if that makes sense. It's a little heavy.
Whiskeys for drinking, waters for fighting. Probably one of the most important resource.
What did you say? Sorry.
Whiskeys for drinking, waters for fighting.
Quote it.
And for the record,
I think it was it Roosevelt? Did he say that?
I don't know.
I think he did.
A famous guy.
A famous guy.
He might have been famous because of that quote. You never know. But for the record,
wonder.
Again, I wish I would have wrote down the source because I could find the website. But the group that did that study that said 92% of copper mines don't control wastewater effectively, they also found in that study that metal mining is the number one toxic polluter in the United States.
That's not hard for me to believe.
So out of everything that we have currently,
hard rock
that is the number one thing. It's more than, all the people driving cars and all the people taking, hot showers for an hour or whatever they try to tell us we're killing the environment with. That is the number one thing. So you take the worst thing we have in terms of pollution and you put it next to a wilderness area. I mean, come on.
Yeah, not that it matters, but this, for those of you who don't know, this watershed flows into Canada.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's along the border boundary. Yep. Yeah.
So you would have that business too. As much as we put out your forest fires, Canada.
It's always got to come.
Can I just say that?
that?
I'm sorry.
It's true.
Oh well, no, maybe that's a different.
It's a new
that's
year.
a different topic.
It's a new year, new forest fire season coming. Did we want to, or were you gonna go more?
I was going to provide just a little tidbit of light since we've talked about a lot of negative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to move
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. I'm
unless
good with
there's
that.
any more
I was
darkness, you guys.
I was
Yeah.
gonna move it on, but yeah.
Sure. So, I saw this yesterday. To provide a little bit of hope, there's still are good things happening in the conservation world. Absolutely, and one of those good things is that Ducks Unlimited and Cox Enterprises
Jim.
agreed to establish one of the largest voluntary conservation easements ever created in the U.S. just this past week. It's 4,400 acres. 40 miles of river and marsh frontage, 9 islands, 1,300 acres of upland forest in South Carolina, coastal South Carolina. And it is just incredible habitat, deer, turkeys, quail, ducks, waterfowl on the Eastern Flyway, Atlantic Flyway. They just gave it away. They gave it to a conservation easement.
No kidding.
Voluntary. I mean, it's incredible. Like that kind of stewardship, you just don't see that very much anymore. Yeah. And there's not that many, especially on the East Coast, there's not that many places of continuous land that's that big that could even be given away.
Yeah.
So to see one of those kind of persisting chunks of land that's massive in scale, like out there, 4,400 acres is a whole different thing than it is out here.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging, and I commend those people for being willing to share that, because there was like companies that were like doing all kinds of things to try to start, luxury housing developments and all kinds of things throughout this property. And they said, no, we don't want the money. We want to preserve it.
Yeah.
So good for them. I think it's awesome.
Specifically for hunting and fishing.
Well, it's a conservation easement. So essentially what it is like, I don't know all the rules, and I think it's probably state-based in terms of what all you can do on easements. But the idea is that it cannot be developed for, I believe, and this may be state, I think it's federal, is 99 years is the...
Also, it's like not perpetual then.
Well, that's what to my understanding, a number of depending on the state you go to, a number of, they call them perpetual easements, they're actually slotted for 99 years.
Yeah.
They call them perpetual, but they're not. They put that date on it, that 99-year marker on it. So at least I think that's the way it is in North Dakota.
Well, so yeah, North Dakota is a little different when it comes to perpetual easements. They can be, a landowner can give them, but like outside entity cannot do that. So
sure.
Nonprofit can't do it. But there are tons of conservation easements in South Dakota and all across the United States, and they vary based on the landowner. So like in South Dakota, they'll put an easement on a piece of property, can't be developed, but it can still be farmed.
Sure.
Right? The wetlands can't be drained.
Right.
That type of thing.
The point is it's protected from major disturbance.
Yep.
So
and shout out to Jim Kennedy, because Jim Kennedy
right.
has given, who knows, probably, I know for sure, over $100 million conservation.
He runs the Cox Foundation.
I don't know if he still runs Cox Communications, but he's definitely has a lot of influence there, and so he's a great man for conservation. There is no question. So, and a very, very avid outdoorsman.
What a surprise!
There you go.
What a surprise!
All right, Gentry.
Wait. Before we go there, I wanted to. This will be. I don't know. Maybe this won't be quick. You're going to deal with it. So a couple of the scriptures that that I wanted to get to, prior to your point. This can kind of seem doom and gloom, but get out, do your research, and if you read 2 Timothy. Chapter 1, verse 7, the both books of Timothy are Paul's writing a letter to his protege, Timothy. And one of, this is a life verse, and if it's not, lock it in, because it's a good one. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind, right? And I think that just shouts, use your brain. Don't live in fear. We don't we don't, all these things we're talking about, we still live in an amazing country that we get to debate this kind of stuff. We've been afforded an amazing natural resource, that we get to have these conversations over. So, thank you, Lord, for what we've been given. So,
Amen.
Don't be fearful, but don't cover your head either.
Yeah,
Don't
correct.
bury your head in sand.
Yeah, use your mind.
And your voice.
Yeah, don't check your brain out. Filter everything. Everything we say, everything anybody says. Go to Scripture with that stuff. That's what it's there for. That's what we're told to do. So
Yeah, I mean, even Jesus himself, I was listening to a thing on the radio about this the other day. He spent more time reprimanding and correcting the religious leaders of his time than he did, the criminals.
Yeah.
Or the tax collectors, the people that other people thought were the lowest of the low. He spent more time focused on the leaders because those were the people that had influence. Those were the people that thought they were righteous. Not to say everybody in government is like that at the higher levels, but those are our leaders. We're not run by a religious society like they were back then, but it's the same thing. He would put, if he was here today, I believe he would put a lot of his words, because there probably wouldn't be many. He would put a lot of his words towards, probably both religious, but also, political leaders if he were here.
Yeah.
So use your voice. I watched a part of a hearing the other day where one of the senators said, it was about public land stuff and the BLM. And one of the senators said, I have never received more input about a topic than I have from outdoorsmen about this.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to hear.
Yeah.
But it's not enough. You know what I mean? Keep it going.
Amen.
It's not fact time yet. Yeah.
Oh.
Whoa.
A couple current event stuff. Applications for the Big 3 in North Dakota are open.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be closing.
He put in. I think it closes the March 25th.
Yeah.
I've done that.
I cannot wait to donate my money to the North Dakota game.
For anyone who's not from North Dakota,
$15.
I think, are they all $5 now?
Yeah, it's $5.
Yeah.
I thought one of them was like $3. Anyways, for anyone who's not from North Dakota, the Big 3 are the 3 once-in-a-lifetime tags you can apply for as a resident in this state. I think, you can buy the bighorn tag at an auction, one of them. So there's bighorn, elk, and moose. I think the numbers of elk tags are going up or trending upwards from the previous years.
They need to be.
Yeah.
I think so. I think the moose they've been barely climbing, I want to say. I have no clue
I
on
think
the
they're
bighorn.
flat this year.
I was going to say, I remember last year it was barely any. But anyways, bighorns are statewide, and there is not a lot of those tags given out. They do.
I think there's 5 or 6 total.
Yeah,
8 last year.
They do one of them at an auction, I know, or at least they did the year I looked at it. And then there's units for elk and moose. If you want to just get some North Dakota elk or moose meat, applying for a cow, you have such greater odds. It's almost unreal compared to the bull tags.
Huh? I don't think you can. Can you even apply as a non-resident?
Yeah, you can as a non-resident. It's only resident.
You can get them through the various auctions and raffles.
Yeah. That's the only way though. And it's once in a lifetime. So once you pull it, no matter if it's a cow or a bull, you're done after that. You're no longer allowed to apply. Some guys put in for 5 years and are lucky enough to get it. Some guys put in for 30 and never even sniff the tag. So it's definitely a lot of luck. Hopefully the number of tags continues to trend upwards.
Yeah, I know somebody who's been putting in, I think they started the elk season in the 70s or the early 80s here. Are real good.
I was way after that. Don't point at me.
No, a real good buddy's friend's dad, and I've told some stories about him. And he finally got to the point where he was like, so he put in for a cow tag, and he got it the first, within a couple of years of put in for a cow tag, which is pretty cool.
Because he was 50 years strong at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was
a crazy amount, and he didn't get it.
I had a buddy that put in for his elk tag the second year he put in, he drew it.
For here?
And then, for North Dakota.
Bull tag?
And he got a bull.
And, he shot a nice bull. And then a coworker of mine, good friend, his wife won an elk tag in a raffle for North Dakota. She shot her elk.
There is raffles.
That's right. Then 2 or 3 years later, which was last year, the year before, first year putting in for the moose tag, she drew a bull tag. She shot a nice bull. So some people just have it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't. That's all I know.
What's your guys' opinion? This always rubs me wrong, and I get it. It's in the name of conservation, so it shouldn't bother me. But it is illegal for me to profit. I can't sell walleye fillets. Right. It's illegal. I cannot do it.
That was ended during the market hunting days.
Yeah, I know. But how come our state agencies can? That just gets me.
What do you mean?
Like, how can the Game and Fish raffle out a bighorn? I get it.
Oh,
they
the
make the rules. Yeah.
Oh, the tag.
The tag.
Maybe because it's not a guarantee.
Because what they're raffling off is the opportunity.
Yeah.
Then you have to buy your tag. So I watched the tag sell.
Oh, really?
Yes, I watched the tag sell for desert mule deer tag in Arizona 3 years ago for $725,000.
Dude, that is so crazy.
That is just your opportunity to purchase the tag.
Yeah.
So then you got to buy your out-of-state permits. And if
which
obviously if you're going to do that, you're going guided.
Yeah.
So I mean, but
I know. I just and
it all
I
goes
get
back
it.
to conservation.
It goes back to conservation, which is an awesome deal. It just feels weird. I don't know. What's you guys are good with it?
Yes.
I don't really have a problem with
it.
Because the amount of money that it generates, and even when it's a nonprofit, in most cases, they don't get all that money. The nonprofit doesn't get the money. They get like 10% of it. The rest of it has to go right back to the state for.
Oh, really?
For conservation. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they do a raffle and make $1 million,
they're making
900,000 is going back.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because
100,000.
There's just so many different perspectives, but like, the thing that's going on with Colorado, with the North American model of conservation that got rid of, the market hunting and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't stop. Like they have an exemption or exception in there for commercial trapping. That's why you can still sell furs and do all that kind of stuff. And that's what the fur ban in Colorado's after. They're trying to eliminate the sale, barter trade. I think I said that earlier, of furs, which I think it's kind of interesting because you have a very similar kind of support base in terms of the type of people as you do in that situation in Colorado. I think you have a lot more support, in Oregon. I think you have a lot more support for the thing in Colorado because it's not as extreme. But they're kind of taking the opposite approach. Like instead of getting rid of trapping, like Oregon's getting rid of hunting.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of the sale of the product
that it produces
from that.
Yeah.
When Oregon's doing the opposite. We're getting rid of the activity, but not the product it produces. So it's just kind of really weird to see, like, it's a good case study to see what's more successful. I mean, it's not a great one because, like I said, the Oregon thing's so much more extreme. But this thing in Colorado has gained some real traction, but a lot of people are mad because like the Colorado Parks and Wildlife and a lot of people have put up a huge fuss over this, and the I think the state committee, the Parks and Wildlife Committee of Legislators, has pushed this thing through.
Yeah,
even though like there was a huge outrage at like
to get it on the ballot.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So it's going from the committee to like the state senate or whatever. And then I don't think there's a ballot. I think it's going through the legislature.
Oh, okay. So this isn't going to
right. I misspoke, but yes, I don't. I think they're in session right now, so it's going through the legislature. So the legislature has the opportunity to, but it has to go through like umpteen different hearings and committee sessions, and then amendments and all this kind of stuff. So that's another thing to watch out for.
So just so everybody's aware, when market hunting ended, because we've talked about that several times, that was completely unregulated hunting.
And commercial sale of
commercial sale. So
hunting.
In regard to the fur trade, you can still sell your furs. I sold a lot of them in my day, but it's a regulated hunting situation. So you can't just go catch every bobcat in the country.
Well, in Colorado, though, there are some there's no limits on the animals you can trap. So one of the potential things that people have brought up is said, like, let's establish some limits on the number of animals you can trap within a season.
So they don't have any harvest
That's what I looked up. There's no limits on fur bearers.
Martin or anything like that?
Nope.
Wow.
They can only use live traps. They can't use any like harmful traps.
Well, there's your regulation right there.
Well, that's the thing is the big argument. One of the big arguments against it. It's this. I won't take too long on this, but it's this. The Center for Biological Diversity is the entity that's behind this petition, and it's kind of in the name. Their whole thing is it's hurting. The animals are experiencing loss because of climate change, and trapping is contributing to that significantly, making it worse, and also reducing biodiversity because of bycatch, which is essentially when you catch an animal you don't intend to, whether that's an endangered species or something that's not, something that you wanted. But when you only have live traps, unless the people are already breaking the law to kill animals that they're not supposed to kill after they're catching them, they're just releasing them. So they're not damaging biodiversity.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's population control. It's just like hunting. They're not trying to ban hunting. I can go out and shoot a bobcat, nobody cares. But if I trap one in a live trap and don't hurt it at all and then shoot it from a few feet away, then everybody gets it. It doesn't make any sense.
That's why Oregon said you could protect your pet if an animal attacked it. So when bobcats start killing people's house cats, their children, then they can kill the bobcat, and that's okay.
Yeah. Another reason that this I got a kick out of this. Another reason the Center of Biological Diversity is pushing this is because tanning pelts releases air pollutants because of the chemicals.
Are you serious? That's
Yep.
real.
Yeah.
That's real.
That is absolutely one of the reasons why trapping is damaging the environment. Some guy in his garage with some tanning oil and borax and dish soap and a little tumbler, whatever.
He is killing Colorado.
He is contributing to climate change. He is making the droughts in Colorado worse.
That guy.
And him and his 15 buddies.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fact boy.
I was gonna get back to the big three first.
Oh.
I don't know the exact odds. I'm almost positive you have a way better chance of pulling the elk comparatively to the bighorn because there's 8 bighorn tags and one of them gets auctioned every year, and I feel like there's one more that is in a raffle or something like that. There's 6 available tags for the thousands of people that apply. I think the elk per unit. I think as a total. It's up. Some units have gone down, but most have fluctuated up. Moose has been about the same for the last couple of years, I think. You have the best chance to pull the elk, which is it's still astronomically low.
1,062 elk licenses, which is
That's
an
the whole
increase
state?
of 102 from the previous year.
So we're trending upwards.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So one.
Not in our unit.
There aren't any increase?
No increase in our unit.
What unit you guys put in for?
Don't you worry.
Don't you worry.
The 12 viewers do not get to know.
We will show you.
It probably won't matter for 25 years, but we're not going to tell you.
So
Anyway.
moose licenses is 296 moose licenses.
Does it say if that was an increase or a decrease?
Who has the highest success rate?
Which remains the same as the previous year.
That could be a fact of the week.
I'd say
question.
bighorn sheep.
I'd assume.
What do you say?
Oh, it is. They bet at 1,000.
Because,
yeah.
Game and Fish helps guys.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say
Points
guys, hunters.
Points them in the right direction.
Points them in the right direction to say because they want the sheep to be harvested. That's the purpose of it.
I wouldn't know where to start to find a bighorn sheep in the state. Obviously the western
Billings
half,
County,
but,
baby. That's where I would go. I don't know where within the county,
exactly.
but I'd start walking.
I'd know the general counties I would look at, but
grab yourself a big bag of water and binoculars and walk around Billings County, and you'll find them eventually. I'm sure.
All right, what's next?
First of all, I feel like this would be one of the more interesting places to kill a moose that you can because normally when you see not just the videos but pictures of guys, they're always in a forest or they're in Alaska, and here you'd be cornfield, a cattle pond.
Wait for him to step out of the shelter belt.
Yeah, that's probably I've never talked to anyone who's killed a moose here, but I'd imagine it's gonna be a slough or
I think that's
remember
how
when we
people
saw
get on them.
Remember when we saw that one that was we were walking.
Oh
we were pheasant
yeah, we
hunting,
saw one pheasant hunting,
and it was what is that?
I have yet to see a moose in the state of North Dakota. Been here going on 11 years. Well,
I think I saw 3
this
this year.
Yeah, we've seen it.
I've seen moose in 10 other states, but
I saw 3 this year, and then That one that got up when we were walking with pheasants, that was
Yeah.
not safe. It was like 10 yards from us. It wasn't good.
It was close.
No, I don't think any of you guys watch basketball that religiously, so I'm just going to skip past this. I don't even, but Bam Adebayo had 83 points last night.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Broke Kobe's record. Some consider him to be the highest scorer of all time. Some say Wilt's game was legit. There's still a bunch of debate on that.
Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points, you mean?
The validity on that is widely disputed.
There's no way to tell.
Crossed. There really isn't. Did you find the Bighorn numbers?
No, I can't find it. I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to fact.
There we go.
Yeah.
Fact.
You failed.
Fact or fiction?
All
Jeez.
right. Fact of the week. I got to figure out how to word this one too. Dude,
We have all night.
cut me
How
some
about
slack.
you failed?
Oh,
God.
I failed.
Yeah.
You're going to fail this fact.
You did have I think about a week to prepare.
Yeah, well. All right. 1 in blank geese are banded. So,
Oh, jeez.
You and your
and this is all geese. I've done waterfowl. I only did waterfowl last week. I've tried to spread it out pretty evenly. So 1 out of every blank number of geese are banded, and this is all geese. So snows, specks, Rosses.
Across North America.
Yep.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark, and I'm gonna say 1 in 25,000.
Okay.
You're
He was
I'm still looking for Bighorn.
he was on his phone during fact time. That's got to be cheating.
I don't know. That's what you're going for is a ratio.
So 1 out of every blank. So pick a number.
Okay.
1 in 10,000.
Okay.
1 in 5,000.
Number was 1,000. They're more common than all you guys think.
1 in 1,000. Really?
Which is crazy considering I've seen a decent amount in fields. I've never
Them boys at Game and Fish have been busy.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that means if I see a feed with 5,000 geese, there's at least 5 banded birds in there, most likely.
I would say so, yeah. And
That's
when you
crazy.
think about it like that, I feel like that's more easy to picture.
I've never even seen a band, so to me, it might as well be 1 in a million.
It also could be put in perspective, too, because we banded the snot out of resident giant Canada geese in Missouri.
Yeah.
And so
Because you're thinking
when you
the whole
think
state's,
about a bird that those birds don't really migrate.
yeah, a lot of the river ones.
Yeah,
So,
so
like-
concentrated.
So
Locals,
it's
yeah.
concentrated. Although we did in Canada had 3 snow geese came in and shot them, and they were all 3 banded, and they were banded in succession.
Yeah.
That's
You
Like
told us
1,
about
2,
that.
3.
Yeah,
You were like-
that's cool.
Well, Dan, congratulations. I think this may be the
Thank
first time you've won. The
Yeah,
fact
it
of the
is.
week.
And I was a straight guess.
I'm telling you, we got to get a whiteboard and
that's
keep
funny.
track.
Yeah. Now that our
whiteboard space is
weird
here.
blanket is gone. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for the week. Again, hopefully we left a little bit of positivity, and conservation is near and dear to all of our hearts. So appreciate y'all. God bless you, and have a great week.
Subscribe and call your senators.
Yeah.